Welcome to In Touch Crime Beat. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson.
Out of jail, okay? Don't mess up.
And those are the people, those repeat offenders, the ones that go to prison. And
I say we're the #1 rated radio show in the whole country.
To In Touch Crime Beat. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson. Ray was at breakfast the other morning, and somebody walked up and said, "That Ray Larson, boy, he's really into that criminal stuff, isn't he?" And people always want to know if you're actually as passionate in person as you are on the radio. And I'm telling the truth, you are. And why? Because I was in the business for 22 years. You have to face the victims. And that's not a side of it that everybody gets to see as intimately as you do in your office. And same with the police officers. When you're standing there with somebody and you're listening to their story, and they're asking you for help, and you do what you can to help them, that's what you're faced with every day. So it is about the victims, right?
yes, you know, as you're talking about that, I think about here out at Clear Channel. There's a big billboard up here, place for a billboard right next to the station. And when I was running back in 1985, when you were still in elementary school,
High school, graduated in 85. They're close enough.
up goes the sign. And the sign was Larson for Commonwealth Attorneys, victims first. I started then because crime victims, in my opinion, are the involuntary participants in the criminal justice system, and more times than not they get the shaft. And even more now, since our legislature has come up with these criminal-friendly laws that seem to favor criminals over people who choose to obey the law. Now, you ask how I face them. Well, we just basically tell them the way it is. And right now, in particular, we're dealing with people who are the victims of what the legislature calls nonviolent property offenses, property crime, theft, burglary, breaking a window on your car and getting into that sort of thing.
Now, why are we dealing with them more than usual?
Because they constitute about 85% of the crime that occurs in Lexington, and the legislature has sort of said those people, the preferred sentence for people who commit those kind of crimes is what they call supervision in the community.
Mm-hmm.
That means put them back on the streets and put them under probation and let them be supervised by a probation officer.
Oh, but what the legislature has told us is that nonviolent criminals are not the priority. I mean, and what do you say to people who go, look, our prisons are full of nonviolent offenders, and there's not room for the violent ones. That's why that they're letting these folks out.
Well, that's not true. It's just not true. What they want to do, they put a price tag on crime, and they have decided in the legislature to transfer the cost of crime from the state budget to the backs of the new victims of these criminals who have been sent to prison in the past. You know, it just, you ask how I deal with them. I'm in the process of writing a letter to a person who was the victim of a crime, and he owns warehouses in town, and he allows tractor trailers to park on his property overnight. And there was a guy named Brandon Overpeck who stole this small gauge copper wire from the front of these trailers to the brake lights. Small gauge copper wire.
Stripped it from the trailer.
He just, yeah. And what happened was he got about $20 worth of copper, but caused about $20,000 worth of damage. You see? So what I'm trying to do is explain to him what happened. Now, this guy, this Brandon Overpeck, we prosecuted, and he pled guilty to criminal mischief. We recommended that he spend 3 years in prison. And because this is what they call a nonviolent property offense, and the preferred sentence is probation, then I related what's happened to this guy. He was sentenced to 3 years, but that sentence was probated by the judge for 4 years. And during that period of time, he was subject to several conditions. One of which was you serve 60 days in jail, and then you're on the street again. And so he did that. And he was classified as a high-risk probationer, which means that he meets with his probation officer twice a month. The rest of the time he's on the street. He was instructed to report to his probation and parole officer, and he failed to appear. Violation. Then a few days later, he failed a drug test when he tested positive for marijuana. Another violation. He failed to seek substance abuse evaluation as he was directed by his probation officer. Another violation. Then he was instructed to come back into the probation office. He didn't do it. Another violation. Then he was arrested and charged with misdemeanor shoplifting. He was booked into the detention center. His bond was set at $500, 10%. So he got out of jail with $50, and he was instructed by the court, by the judge, to appear at his arraignment the next day. He
Please.
failed to appear.
Please come to your name, please.
Say what?
Pretty please. Did you
Yeah,
say pretty please?
yeah.
He
And
still
so
didn't show up?
he didn't show up for that either. So we got a district court warrant for his arrest, and we got a circuit court warrant for his arrest. He's presently a fugitive, you see. He was ordered to pay $17,500 in restitution. Now, so here's what I say to the victim. I'm sorry to have to report this sorry episode to you, but given the criminal laws passed recently by our legislature, this is neither unexpected nor an unusual occurrence.
Tune into the following stations to hear the full episode.